Alrighty, so we have here this code that, well, first we initialize Pygame, and then we set a window and a height, a width and a height for a window, which we then create on line 10. Again, these are all Pygame commands, so they're new to all of us. Don't worry so much about how they work. Just understand that this is a command you use, and it's all documented. But this is how you make a window. I do make sure I store that in a variable called win because I want to then fill my window, whatever screen color I want here. In this case, that's baby blue. I make the color for a ball. So it's just going to be a circle, but I'm going to get it rolling. I'm going to get it moving so that it kind of simulates a ball moving in a direction. I specify that where I want my ball to be centered at the very beginning at 334, 200. By the way, it would actually be convenient maybe to set x and y to set them as a function of the width and the height. So 334, by the way, is very close to 350, and 350 is half of 700. 200, as a matter of fact, is half of 400. So why don't we start our x instead of at 334? Let's start it at w divided by 2. So the width divided by 2. So that would be 700 divided by 2 is 350. And then the y, I'm going to start it at the height divided by 2. Again, it's convenient to maybe write variables as a function of a different variable. And then we engage in this while loop where we basically say that while x is less than the width, then we want to write a new center for our ball, draw the ball with line 23. Notice that here I specify the center with the location of the ball. Update my display. And I also want to, at the very end, increase x by 10 so that the next, because I'm going to loop back after line 25, I loop back and I check the condition. Notice that if x starts at 350, 350 plus 10 is 360. And I'm going to loop back and I'm going to check is 360 less than 700, and the answer is yes. And so I'm going to do this again. And then x will be 370, loop back to line 21. 370 is less than 700. So get the new x. This is changing. So the center of the circle is changing. It's getting further and further to the right. But we have a few problems here when we run this. The problem is that we never actually quite see the ball. I need to make these integers, okay? Because whenever I graph something with Pygame, they need to be whole numbers, and so I need to ensure that these are going to be integers. So I'm going to wrap the two divisions around with the in function. So the problem that I have here is that I draw the circles, but they're overlapping for one, and I don't get rid of the previous circle. I don't. Now, if I increase this, instead of 10, I put maybe 50, or let me do actually more like 30. Notice how it still draws the circles, but now they're a little further apart. And so that would not mean that would like be not a smooth motion. So let me do a few things here. First, I'm gonna by the way, the reason I see all the circles drawn at once is because this loop that starts on line 21 and ends on line 25, this loop performs the calculations at the frequency, at the rate that the processor in our computer runs. And the processor in our computer runs at really fast rates. So it's performing it's executing these commands very quickly, under a second, under a fraction of a second. So we don't get to see the balls being drawn. But Pygame has a very useful function called Pygame. It is from the time.clock that lets us limit, and I'm gonna just reference that that sentence here. This can be used to help limit the runtime speed of a game by calling clock dot tick, and putting a 40 inside of the parentheses. Notice tick is the function. Once per frame, the program will never run at more than 40 frames per second. And so it kind of slows things down. So let's go ahead and use this pygame.time.clock and then implement this tick function and use it to help us slow this down. So I'm going to go here, and outside of my loop, I need to make this clock object. So I'll come in here and really anywhere, but I'll make it at the very beginning, seeing as how that's where I'm going to put this right above the window and the height, the width and the height. And then right here, I'm going to make this clock, which is pygame.time.clock. Let me run it to verify that this is okay. Okay, nothing happened, but it's working good. Now inside of my loop, I am going to put this, I'm going to use this clock object that I've made on line 8. And I'm going to say clock tick. The keyboard is acting up. It's been acting up today. Tick, and then I'm going to put 40 in parentheses. And what this does is it slows the loop down. I'm also going to change this back to, I'm actually going to change it back to 5. And let me see how that looks. Oh, nice. So you see now at this point, it's drawing the circles and we can see them happening. That's because this has slowed down how fast this looping is happening. Before it was happening so fast that everything was, the looping was complete under a second and we didn't get to see the circles being drawn. But now, because we put 40 here, it slows things down. And if you increase this number, then you're going to slow it down even further. Let me try that one more time. It looks like it's sped up. See here? Yeah, increasing the number speeds it up. So actually, it allows for up to 200 frames per second. So if you want to slow it further down, you'd make it smaller, no more than 10 frames per second. Notice how it's slowing down right there, right? Okay, finally, let's get rid. That 10 basically speeds things up or down. If you increase the number, it speeds things up. If you decrease it, it slows it down. So I think 40 it looked like a nice nice number here. Now, what we're going to do is that every time before we draw the circle, the new circle at a new location, because this location X, Y is changing, X is increasing. So every time you draw a circle, you're drawing it to the right and to the right. Before that, I'm going to fill my screen again. So I'm going to actually take this command, line 15, and if I fill my screen baby blue, it basically erases any circles on the screen, and then I'm going to graph a new circle at a new location. And there it goes. Now it looked okay, it didn't look smooth. So to make the movement a little smoother, we need to play around with the 40 and the 5. So if we decrease this number, I think that should help with the drawing here. Let's try it. So we're moving two pixels to the right every loop. So it looks a little smoother. Let's actually change. Let's just move it down to 1 pixel to the right every time you loop. So it looks a little better, but it's a little slow. And so how do we make it a little faster? We do so by increasing the tick in this clock. So let's move that up to like 60 and see how that looks. It's moving a little slow still, so I'm actually going to increase this to maybe 100. Okay, so a little better. At this point, you get to play with how you want your circle to move, or how fast you want it to move. But more importantly, is that we understand what's happening here. I understand that there's some new commands that you may, well, that you're not aware of because it's likely the first time you're using Pygame. Actually, some of you have used it in the past, but these new commands, just feel comfortable using them, understand their purpose more than anything, and play around with them. So let me just once again briefly go over what we've done here. We've initialized Pygame on line 5. We've made a variable for the width and the height of my window. I've made this clock variable using this Pygame command, and that helps me slow things down or speed them up. We made a window on line 11 with the width and the height of 700 and 400. We specified the color of the window. In this case, it's baby blue. Going to htmlcolorcodes.com. Then we fill the window on line 15, that color. But we actually don't see that until we update our display. I also made a variable for the color of the ball, which is just pure white right now. And then finally, I specify the X and Y locations of the center of this circle, which is supposed to represent the ball. And I made them such that they're halfway, right in the center of the window. So I divided both the width and the height by 2. Then I use this looping mechanism that, again, we're starting to get comfortable with. It's called a while loop. And I said that while this is true, while X is less than 700, then I want to, this controls the speed at which the ball moves. So just feel comfortable with that. If you increase this number, your ball is going to move faster. If you decrease it, it's going to move slower. So if I put it at 200, again, this ball is going to move much faster than it did before. So I think 200 is even better, just from looking at it right here. Now I fill my screen, whatever screen color I gave it. My new location for the center of the circle is at X comma Y. I draw the circle at that location with the radius of 10 and with the ball color I made on the window that I've made it right here on line 11. It's a solid circle, so that's why I put a 0. And then after I do all those things, I update my display. Then afterwards, I increase X by 1. So it was 350, now it's 351. And I loop back to line 21 and I check, is 351 less than 700? It is. So again, I fill the screen baby blue so that it erases the previous circle that was on there. The new center location of my circle is not the same because this is now 1 unit to the right than it was before, and I draw a circle to the right than it was before, 1 pixel. I update the screen and then add 1 to X. And I keep doing that. And I'm basically what I'm doing is I'm drawing circles nonstop, but this line right here, line 23, fills the screen back to baby blue and erases any circles that have already been drawn. So if I get rid of line 23, or if I comment that out, then I'm going to see all the circles that are drawn, all of them. Because I'm not redrawing, I'm not repainting the screen back to baby blue and erasing all the circles that were on there. So this lets me get rid of any circles that have been drawn on the screen by basically painting over them. And that then simulates the motion of a ball. Because in essence, we're actually not having the ball move. What we're doing is we're just drawing a lot of circles, but we're painting over the ones that we just previously drew. So hopefully with this, you're comfortable with the next assignment. I understand, I realize this was a lengthy 3 tutorial videos, but hopefully they help you out with the assignment.